Good afternoon to you. 506 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Congressman Riley Moore will be with us, a freshman from West Virginia. We'll find out what it's like joining Congress and what they've been up to this week, what to expect in the weeks ahead. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. President Trump is set to arrive at the United States Capitol building at any moment. He is here in the area visiting. He will be paying his respects to President Jimmy Carter, who is at this moment lying in state inside of the Capitol Rotunda. And President Trump is also set to, according to Chad Pergram, meet with Republican senators as well about the legislative agenda. One would assume also the confirmation hearings for all of his cabinet picks. So the president, using this opportunity to both pay his respects to the late President Jimmy Carter, as well as to push his agenda along with members of Congress. So that's happening today. He'll be attending President Carter's funeral tomorrow as well. I do have to point out, though, before we get to our next guest, that you've been hearing today that there was a man who was arrested trying to get into the United States Capitol building with a machete and 3 knives. Why does this keep happening? Wasn't there a guy recently who tried to get in who was soaked in gasoline trying to get into the building? And thanks to some great detective work, they said, boy, that guy smells like gasoline. And they stopped him from getting in the building. The man was stopped at the security checkpoint at the Capitol Visitor Center. So some good news. The security checkpoint is able to capture somebody who's carrying 3 knives and a machete. So we know that the security checkpoint is functional there at the Capitol Visitor Center, at least if you have 3 knives and a machete. That's, again, just hours before Trump arrives. He's expected at any moment. Let's focus on what else is going on in the world. There's another big lawsuit against a media organization, $1 billion defamation trial going on right now against CNN. A man who's been in the courtroom to watch this take place as we enter day 3 is our next guest. Nick Fondacaro is here. He's an associate editor for the Media Research Center and Newsbusters. Nick, great to have you back with us, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, so take us back in time to what CNN did that earned them such a massive defamation suit.
Okay, so I'm going to be as succinct as I can be and respectful because I am still in the courthouse here for it. So basically, CNN allegedly defamed a Navy veteran, Mr. Zachary Young. He was helping to get women out of Afghanistan, ones that were corporately sponsored. The sponsors were like Audible, Bloomberg, and a few other NGOs. He got about 24 women out of the country. And because his company is a for-profit company and they're trying to keep a business afloat, and it takes a lot of money to try to get people out of a war zone. The security contracting world, people have certain skills and stuff, and it can be very expensive. CNN apparently didn't like this. This guy was charging multiple thousands of dollars, but he never took money from Afghans. It was always the corporate sponsors who paid for it. But still, CNN was under this impression that he was somehow some sort of trafficker or somebody who was ripping people off. They claimed he was running a black market, and that is where the defamation came, because when you're a security contractor and people are alleging that you are a black market human trafficker, people in the security contracting field don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yes.
So that's where this comes in, and this happened in the fall of Afghanistan a few years ago.
Yeah, November 11th, 2021. Here's Jake Tapper of CNN on the air talking about this Navy veteran, Zachary Young.
Afghans trying to get out of the country face a black market full of promises, demands of exorbitant fees, and no guarantee of safety or success.
Desperate Afghans are now being exploited, like that young man, told that they can get them or their families out if they pay exorbitant, often impossible amounts. Found a man named Zachary Young, who is one of many advertising evacuations from Afghanistan, posting just this week, "We can deliver." One LinkedIn user posted messages with Young, where Young said it would be $75,000 for a car to Pakistan. He told another it would be $14,500 per person to get to the United Arab Emirates or Albania for another $4,000. Prices well beyond the reach of most Afghans. We got Young's number and called, but he didn't pick up. In a text message, he told CNN that Afghans trying to leave are expected to have sponsors pay for them. If someone reaches out, we need to understand if they have a sponsor behind them to be able to pay evacuation costs, which Young says are highly volatile and based on environmental realities. Young repeatedly declined to break down the costs or say if he's making money.
Now, does that audio form the basis of Zach Young's lawsuit today?
Yeah, the early parts of that where they're talking about they interviewed two individuals and then they sort of tried to link them to Zach, being like, oh, this man found Zach online. Zach testified today that he's never interacted with either of the individuals that CNN claims he interacted with. Oh. And also entered into the record today was the teasers that Jake Tapper did before that segment, where he was also talking, sort of alluding that what they were going to talk about coming up would be people exploiting, taking advantage of people in this black market of trying to get people out of the country. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And this report that we saw today in the courtroom was repeated 6 times total over different CNN shows, both domestically and CNN International. International is important because we're in the security contracting world. Zachary, Mr. Young has a whole bunch of contacts overseas.
Yep. Okay, so this is day 3 of the trial. What has been the mood inside that courtroom? How do you think things are going?
So far in the courtroom, we've had the opening statements. Earlier today, the plaintiff's counsel finished with his questioning of Mr. Young maybe about an hour or 2 ago. The cross-examination has begun. I'm trying to keep an eye on the jurors as they're doing this. They're they're paying close attention. They were particularly, when they were being shown the messages, behind the scenes messages during opening statements from inside CNN editors talking about Alex Marquardt's report being full of holes like Swiss cheese, 80% emotion, 20% obscure fact. I could sort of see on their faces that a lot of them did not appreciate that kind of language, like realizing that even internally the editors didn't think it was fit for publication yet.
Wow.
And they were taking down notes. And today, basically with the new evidence today sort of showing like what was going on in the messages between Marquardt and Katie Bo-Lillis to Mr. Young, where they sort of gave him this false impression that they were just trying to find out what the situation is on the ground, only to turn around and then blindside him with a report about himself. The jurors didn't seem to appreciate that either.
Wow. So CNN must have been under the impression that this thing should go to trial or else they would have settled. They must have thought they had a really strong case to let it get this far.
Well, they did try to settle, and Mr. Young rejected that settlement.
Oh, I see. Okay. So it gets here because he knows he's got a strong case, and CNN couldn't avoid it. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, Here we are. And that sounds to me like CNN is on the losing end of this at the moment. I just should remind people, this is Panama City, Florida, right, where this is taking place?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the jury does not seem to be pleased with CNN's behavior. If CNN ends up paying a big settlement here, that'll just make them the latest left-wing media organization to be subjected to that, right?
Yeah, we had the settlement with ABC and Trump. Trump is currently, I believe, has a couple different defamation suits. I think one of them is against CNN. CNN is actually also in the process of dealing with a defamation suit from Project Veritas. And in that lawsuit, basically, CNN falsely claimed that Project Veritas was kicked off of Twitter before Elon purchased it for misinformation when they were actually kicked off for doxing somebody. So, and a judge in an appeals court put new life into that case, and basically and the judge pointed out that CNN's argument almost overtly is that facts are not material, or they're immaterial to a story. So the judge is calling them out, and the judge even says, I doubt CNN, essentially the judge says, I doubt CNN believes this themselves. They're just trying to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what
they said. Facts, he's summarizing their argument, but that facts are immaterial to a story. In other words, journalism is unimportant to journalism.
Exactly. That's why they literally argued that there is no difference between them saying, to them, they're just reporting that Project Veritas got kicked is true enough that they can that they should just be fine with it, and debating whether or not, or actually writing the real reason they got kicked off doesn't really matter, because getting kicked off is the end result.
Yeah, there's a big difference between sharing something that's true or sharing something that's false. And CNN alleged it was the latter when it wasn't. And so, Project Veritas seems to have a case. So, okay. And finally, is it true that CNN's attorney's name is Dave Axelrod? Is that really the name of the attorney in the courtroom?
Yes, that is their lead counsel. It is not the same David Axelrod as commentator David Axelrod, who worked for Obama.
Okay.
And interesting enough, he has been involved in other defamation suits. He's representing New York Times against Palin, and he's also representing Amber Heard in her appeal against Johnny Depp.
Wow, okay. He's a busy, high-profile attorney, but not the same as the David Axelrod, who, of course, is a part of Obama world. Okay, all right, good to clear that up. Hey, Nick Fondacaro, thank you very much for that update. As I know you're busy at the courtroom, I can hear it in your voice. You want to get back into it? Please do. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
There he is, Nick Fondacaro, Newsbusters Media Research Center. Then in Panama City, Florida, as CNN endures a $1 billion lawsuit. $1 billion? Amazing. We'll see what happens. There's the left has been really annoyed that people are holding them accountable using the legal system. In fact, remember Brian Stelter and Jim Acosta were very upset about this when ABC settled their case with Donald Trump over George Stephanopoulos' explicit lies, brazen lies, repeated lies about President Trump. And CNN's Stelter and Acosta thought, well, this sets a very bad precedent.
These cases oftentimes do not work out for Trump, but this ABC case is a major victory. I talked to renowned First Amendment lawyer Floyd Abrams last night. He said, look, there's no way to say other than this is a big win for Trump.
And I have to ask you whether or not you think there's just going to be a chilling effect on the news industry just as he is coming.
A chilling effect on lying. Can you imagine such a thing?
Into office because of this. I mean, I suppose it's almost a rhetorical question because the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Media lawyers are worried about this. They're preparing for it. They are preparing their news.
The deceit to even say something like this. You know, how brazen it is to go on TV and then say something out loud like, oh, my goodness, this is going to have such a chilling effect. George Stephanopoulos lied about Trump. It is open and shut. There's no sane person on earth who would assess the facts of that case and say, oh, yeah, he was close. No, he wasn't. He wasn't close. Not at all. And Brian Stelter and Jim Acosta are fretting over the chilling effect this will have on their industry. And they're right to fret because their industry is full of people who lie for a living. So this is really going to cut into their bottom line. Now, I don't know what they're paying Stelter these days. I don't think he's making as much money as he used to. Remember, Brian Stelter had a television show. He had a full-blown show on the weekends. They called it Reliable Sources, just to really add to the joke. And then they fired him. And then he went back on the network for free for a time because I guess he had nothing else to do and nobody else would take him. And then after that foster to adopt program was over, they adopted him back again. My guess is they're not paying him that much. In fact, Jim Acosta may be paying CNN for the privilege to be on the air. Do you think he pays like a subscription fee? It's like $15 a month. He subscribes and he gets to be on CNN. Who knows? But there they are worrying. Oh my gosh, you can't even lie about people anymore. It's really going to put a chilling effect on our business. Amazing scene just playing out moments ago. President Trump and a full complement of a presidential motorcade arriving at the United States Capitol building. The streets right outside the Capitol shut down to accommodate it. All of the flashing lights and black cars, antennas in the air, and just a preview of what we're going to see quite a bit of in the next few weeks. The inauguration approaches, now just 12 days away. Amazing. President Trump arriving at the Capitol. He will pay his respects now to President Jimmy Carter lying in state at the Capitol Rotunda. I already saw him talking with Speaker Mike Johnson. He will be meeting with Republicans this evening at the Capitol building. Republican senators in particular we're hearing. So he's busy. He's not president yet, but he's already doing the work. A lot going on. We'll keep you posted on that. And we'll talk to a member of Congress in just a moment, Congressman Riley Moore of West Virginia, a freshman congressman. We'll find out how things are going as he gets his lay of the land over there. More ahead on WMAL. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is right now 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. As always, a lot of breaking news going on. We're watching these wildfires in California, at least 2 people killed in those, over 1,000 structures burned. Authorities saying they have 0% of that fire contained right now. So things stay awful. We'll give you updates as we get them. Also, President Trump just arriving at Capitol Hill to pay his respects to Jimmy Carter, the former president. He will be visiting his body as he lies in state at the Capitol there ahead of joining the funeral tomorrow in the nation's capital. Additionally, meeting with Republicans in Congress this evening. So President Trump staying busy. Also, Congress staying busy this week, immediately getting to work passing the Laken Riley Act in the United States House of Representatives, which a ton of Democrats voted against. 159 of them voted against that for some god-awful reason. And meanwhile, in the United States Senate, Katie Britt from Alabama is now telling people that she has the necessary 8 Democrats to advance the Laken Riley Act past the filibuster this week. In other words, they've picked up enough Democrats, to include John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, to help get the Laken Riley Act passed officially in the United States Senate. That's great news. Joining us now to discuss everything else going on in Congress is a freshman congressman from the state of West Virginia, the 2nd Congressional District. Congressman Riley Moore is here. Congressman, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, Vince, thanks so much for having me on.
Man, there is a lot going on. And you voted this week for the Laken Riley Act to deport illegals who commit all sorts of crimes. And it sounds like good news. It's probably going to make its way through the Senate now. What do you think?
Yeah, and, first and foremost, I'd like to say I was proud to be a co-sponsor of the Laken Riley Act. Was thrilled to see it pass. It's, the first bill that I co-sponsored coming just here into Congress just last week, right? And so, look, the public, though, should be alarmed at this fact that there were over 150 Democrats in Congress that voted no on this.
Yes.
Now, it did pass bipartisanly in the House, but there's 150 individual members of Congress that voted no on deporting criminal aliens that are in our country. It's unbelievable.
It boggles the mind. 48 Democrats voted in favor of the bill. 159 voted against it. I was looking at the numbers, and 6 Democrats, just 6 specifically, who voted last year against the Laken Riley Act have switched their votes to a yes for the Laken Riley Act. But only 6 of them came to their senses among the group that voted no last year. Why is it so hard to get Democrats to enforce immigration law?
I have no idea. It doesn't make sense when you look at the recent election here of President Donald Trump, who since 2016 has run and been the stalwart in the Republican Party as it relates to securing our border and getting criminal migrants out of this country. Very clear mandate, 312 electoral votes. And I think ultimately they're going to pay the price on this. I think it's why you have seen some Democrats come over. But the American people have spoken pretty loud and clear on this and what they want to see happen.
I just want to back up for a moment and talk a little bit about the fact that you are a freshman congressman, just arrived there. What has that experience been like? Is there an orientation? Is there any hazing? What are you experiencing as you arrive at Congress for the first time?
So no hazing yet. I'm sure that might be coming. But we did have freshman orientation. That was prior to us being sworn in. We had an orientation process. And, the House of Representatives did a very nice job on that. Speaker of the House and chairman of that committee, Brian Stile, did a very good job on that, House administration. So, they've acclimated everybody quite well to the process. Now, I'm not new to serving in government. I was previously the state treasurer of West Virginia and the state legislature before that. So, yeah, it's very interesting. They did a good job, though. My hat's off to them on it.
Any surprises as you arrive in Washington?
No surprises. Obviously, I'm somebody who passionately cares about my country and watch what's going on all the time. Just kind of reinforcing some of the disappointment that I've had over the years in this, and this is part of the reason why I've run, because Democrats have been destroying my state now for decades. And all the problems that we deal with in West Virginia really originate, unfortunately, right here in this city. Most of them do, right here in this city. So just witnessing that in person is a little bit of a different perspective, but just makes me more excited to go after it and fight against this Democrat agenda that has been destroying this country and the people of West Virginia for so long.
These next few weeks are going to be really critical because they're the most important time for political capital for President Trump and the Republican Party. How will members of Congress be spending these next few weeks, Congressman Riley Moore?
So what we're going to be doing is, and we just had another meeting on it, is reconciliation. And for your listeners, that is a process where we're going to pass a budget, and this budget resolution inside of it is going to have instructions that allows the other committees to go out and deal with things that have to do with revenue specifically, right? Money.
Right.
So inside of that is going to be the extension of the Trump tax cuts, unleashing American energy, border security, immigration, and then also cutting government spending. Particularly, we're looking at cutting spending on the mandatory side, which is such a big part of the pie right now. It's about 75% of all government spending is mandatory.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen some novel ideas. I think President Trump had presented at one point that he wants to index taxation on capital gains to inflation. I know he campaigned in particular on no tax on tips during the campaign.
Yeah.
Are these some of the things that might be included in this maybe first or perhaps second reconciliation package?
Yes, I think you are going to see no tax on tips. That's certainly something we've been talking quite a bit about, and some of these other things that we've campaigned on. Look, President Trump, he's calling the play. We're going to run the play. He's the leader of the party. He's called the play. We're going to run the play. So this reconciliation package is everything that he ran on, and the 77 million Americans that voted for him. We're going to go out here and deliver on it. We're unified as a party, and we're going to move forward, and he is the leader of our party.
We saw some Democrats cross the aisle for the Laken Riley Act. All of them should have, but they didn't. Do you expect any Democrat support for, say, a Trump tax plan? And the reason I ask that is because I know that some of these blue states in particular, they want to bring back SALT caps, state and local tax caps that disappeared under the original Trump tax reform. In other words, like basically the way it's all structured is, the rest of America subsidizes New York's excess spending by the way our tax code has traditionally been structured. Trump corrected for that, but it's caused a lot of animosity among Democrats. They want to bring it back. They want to bring back those caps. Do you see them agreeing to anything to maybe join in on this reconciliation package?
I don't think we should be counting on any Democrat votes in this whatsoever as it relates to reconciliation. I mean, we can't get, over 150 of these folks to vote for a bill that was authored after an American was killed by an illegal immigrant. So we're going to have to rely on ourselves on this. If some Democrats want to come over, hey, that's great. And look, you touched on it perfectly as it relates to SALT. We're out here SALT subsidizing their terrible tax policies in the states that they happen to live in. Our taxes are low in West Virginia. Why do we have to pay for that? Maybe y'all go figure it out in New York and California and places like that. Why are we subsidizing? I'm not exactly sure. It doesn't make any sense to me. But we're going to come collectively together as a team. We're going to find accommodation for everybody because we can only lose 2 votes in this, and we're going to march forward right on down the football field and score a touchdown here for President Trump right out of the gate.
All right. Congressman Riley Moore, just joining the United States Congress from the great state of West Virginia. Thank you, sir, for your time today. Good to talk to you, and hope you come back soon.
Hey, love to be back. Thanks so much, Vince. God bless.
Thank you very much. There he is, Congressman Moore. Okay. We got a lot of things happening. President Trump did arrive at the United States Capitol building while I was just speaking to the congressman, met with Speaker Mike Johnson had some exchanges with the media in the hallway. If we get any good audio from that, we'll share it with you. Additionally, we've been tracking the fires going on in California, of course, so devastating. And the mayor of Los Angeles is an awful woman called Karen Bass, who was not in L.A. as these fires began. Instead, she was in Ghana on some sort of ridiculous diplomatic mission. She's the mayor of L.A. She doesn't need to be at the inauguration of the president of Ghana. And yet, that's where she was. So she was missing in action during all of this. Well, she hurried home, they're saying. She got back on a plane. She came back to L.A. She just arrived today in L.A. to witness the damage that's been taking place in her absence. And here she is being confronted in the airport as a reporter questions her about whether or not she regrets abandoning Los Angeles.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
It looks like she's standing on the jetway. Maybe she's waiting for like her carry-on luggage to be delivered or something. She's waiting, and she's refusing to answer any of these questions.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
And she's not even looking at the guy. She's just staring into the distance because he doesn't exist. That's how low he is.
No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
She's trapped. The best part is she's trapped. She can't go anywhere. I don't even know. She's standing in some sort of structure. It looks like a jetway, but she can't get out. She's staring out of a window, and it's perfect. In other words, she is in a situation that she can't get out of, and this lovely gentleman with a British accent is asking all the questions American accented reporters should be asking. Sky News guy? Sky News. All right, now she's walking, trying to escape, being trailed by the Sky News reporter.
Madam Mayor, let me ask you just again, have you anything to say to the citizens today as you return?
No. Ma'am, hold on 1 second.
Oh,
Madam Mayor, just a few words for the citizens today as you return to deal with the catastrophe.
Can you take this down?
Oh, I think I know what's going on. It looks like in this video, everybody else on the plane has to exit the airport through a normal route. And I think that there's a car waiting for her on the tarmac. They just needed to get her through a restricted access door in order to do that. I think that's what's happening in this video. Could be wrong. I've been wrong once or twice. But this guy's trying to trail her and she's trapped because she can't get through. They're like, oh, you got to go to that door over there. It's kind of an unusual thing. You don't usually leave the plane unless you're flying private and just get right into your car on the tarmac.
David.
Yeah, there's a black car waiting for her. Oh, there's a Sky News after action. Let's see what he has to say.
As you say, she wasn't very keen to answer any of your questions there. And fire chiefs are also admitting that they just don't have enough personnel to take out the fires.
Yeah, because they scared them all away, or they fired them because they wouldn't get the jab.
Yeah, they're fighting all sorts of challenges. They're talking about a water shortage. There are reports of fire hydrant failures. They've been unable to use firefighting aircraft for much of the day due to the smoke that is billowing ominously from the hills where the wildfires are raging. And I suppose despite that political storm, this is, of course, at its heart, a human story, because we've now 80,000 people evacuated. Tens of thousands of others are on standby to be evacuated. 2 lives have been lost in the Eaton fire, which is what's causing the consequence behind us. The city's iconic landscape almost shrouded completely.
Yeah, but luckily the mayor has private car service to pick her up at the the airplane. So that's what's happening in Los Angeles right now. Complete chaos. Imagine all this time later, 0% containment on the fire. Firefighters are working like crazy to get this under control. Understaffed. They don't have enough people to help them. And I'm seeing these reports of wind gusts of upwards of 100 miles an hour, which means that this fire is getting accelerated all over the place. Your prayers are a big deal. President Trump did briefly address reporters just moments ago as he arrived at the United States Capitol building. Here's what that sounded like.
Mr. President, are we here to convince that Republicans do one bill? How does it feel to be back at the U.S. Capitol, Mr. President?
It feels great.
Mr. President, on the same page?
Couldn't feel better. We're looking at the one bill versus two bills, and whatever it is, doesn't matter. We're going to get the result, and we're going to make America great again, and we'll see you in a little while. Thank you.
He says, it feels great to be back in the Capitol building. We're looking at one or two bills, whatever it takes to get this agenda passed. We're going to make America great again. He's walking in hand with the First Lady, Melania Trump, as well as just behind him, John Thune, and what I assume is his wife, considering he's holding hands with the woman. So I think it's her as they're all walking in together to the Capitol building today. He's first, again, paying his respects to President Jimmy Carter. On the phone, we have Dan in Stafford. Dan is on line one. Hello, Dan. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, good evening. Love your show. But let me give you a quick comment about firefighting in California.
Please do.
My son is a captain with Firestorm. They're a private firefighting agency. He leads a crew of 10 folks fighting fires up and down the Sierra Nevada.
Okay.
He was told to stand down in October because fire season was coming to a close, right? But the difference between the private contractors and CAL FIRE, who's the government agency out there, is the contractors are a lot better outfitted and better fit, and they will go up and down the mountains fighting fires, whereas CAL FIRE, they don't have it in them to go up and down the hills, all right?
Okay. So tell me what's happening now with your son.
Oh, he's fishing down in Florida. He's off. He had most of his crew called back, and they tried to call him back and tell him to get to work. But he's on vacation. He's not putting down his fishing pole for anybody.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's unbelievable. So, and what does he think of the quality of the firefighting situation in California right now? I've been talking about this LA fire chief. They're all in on diversity, not so much on fighting fires. It sounds like.
Well, I don't know about the fire department,
yeah.
But the CAL FIRE folks that are trained to fight fires, they won't go up and down the hills. They won't call in the helicopters dropping the retardant. Whereas the contract workers, Firestorm, they do a lot better job.
It sounds like a big mess. Dan, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope your son catches something good while he's out there fishing. That sounds great, too. All right. Hey, up next here on this fine network, the great one, Mark Levin. And if you missed anything on this show, boy, we had a lot today. Get the podcast, the Vince Coglianese Show podcast. Please subscribe. Always appreciate that. Have a great evening.